Okay, so the next step in this step-by-step guide is the resin. As always, I'm using glass cast, and I'm going to be using glass cast 50 on this. So it's by weight is the easiest way, 1 to 45. So put 1,000 in there, put 450 hardener. So I'm going to do a pour here. Now, so as I've said before, I've actually got a degassing chamber, so I'm going to use a power mixer, but I'm going to degas it. If you don't have a degassing chamber, you can just use one of these and just give it a solid mix and use the two bucket method. I'm going to degas that for about 10 minutes. We'll come back to that in a bit. I'm not worried about removing every bit of gas. Glass cast does degas itself, and I'm going to do this in 2 pours. So I'll use the heat gun to keep the gas, keep the bubbles out, keep the gas low anyway. So that will do for now. This first pour is just simply black pigment, which I'll show you. So it's just one of these from Easy Composites, this one, and I'm going to use a black. I use it a lot, as you can see. So I just put a few drops of black in there. It will still be translucent. So when that's poured, that will give it a kind of smoky look. Okay, so what I'm going to do on this pour, I'm going to pour the resin in first. Keep your eye out for any leaks on your mould. I'm going to go for another pour in a moment. So we can even remove some bubbles here once it gets settled. Quite simply. We're checking for any leaks here. One of the biggest problems is leaks. You can take a lot longer than I did sealing up your mould, but I make so many of these, the leaks are quite low, so I just tend to do my moulds quite quickly. And if there's any problems, I'll deal with it as it happens. That should have forced all the gases out, and you've probably seen me do this before. I'm just going to put some weights on there, stop it floating. We're looking good. Let's see, any leaks. So that's pretty good. That's the first stage, if you like. I'm going to leave that for, just get the most out of this resin. Push that up the back. Leave that for 5 or 10 minutes, and then come back to it and just give it another go with a heat gun. Now I'm going to prepare the second mould, because I'm making 2 here in one go. This is going to be a silvery grey. So same process again. I'm going to mix exactly the same quantities, 2,900 of the hardener, glass cast 50 in the same container. This time it's going to be silver grey. I sometimes use my own silver grey, but this is from Easy Composites. It's a really nice one. It's called silver, but it actually looks grey. So just a few bits in there. Into the gas chamber, 5 or 10 minutes. If you see anything floating, just put it on the top, just cleans your stick. It's just the odd, it's very, very difficult to keep it clinically clean. I've tried a lot of things to keep this place completely clean, but to be honest, something sometimes gets in, but you need to be monitoring this around the clock until it cures for the late coming, any gases that escape. A fly might have dropped in, anything, especially if you're working with really old wood like this. You can never get it completely clean. You can paint it and seal it. If you want to take the time to do that, you literally just paint it with something like a glass cast 3 or whatever, glass cast 50 will do. Wait until it gets tacky, then do this same process and drop it in. That is a little bit more belt and braces, but to be perfectly honest, if the wood is full of these slits and cracks, even when you paint it, that is not going to seal it when it is in this kind of state. But it will help by painting it first, so that's definitely good advice if you've got the time you want to take to do that. I'm doing quite a few pours today and I just didn't have the time on this one to do it, and it's not that big a deal to keep your eye on something this small. On a really large river table, then I would paint this edge either side if it was a big dining table, because it's very difficult to keep your eye on the gases, etc. So another little trick you might have seen when it looks like there's a lot of kind of resin overspill, filling these cracks, unless you're going to completely submerge this, can be difficult because it does tend to drop in. So I've actually mixed up on another project some glass cast 3, and what I'm going to be doing, it doesn't look very neat, it is quite messy. I've let the viscosity really build up, so it's really getting to the cure stage, and I'm just going to pour that in. Often use black as a filler. I'm going to pour that into some of the bigger voids on the top. Just let that all come out. So pour that into some of the voids on the top, and just use a plastic scraper and just scrape it down, push it down like you were using filler. It does look messy, it is a bit messy, but it's fine, and it really speeds up this process of filling those big voids, especially in something like English walnut, where it just keeps sinking. If you've used resin before, you'll see what I mean. It just keeps coming back to the top and not filling the voids. This is a really quick way. You're going to put a heat gun on this, and that will just gel it in to the voids. So in the background you can see me, I'm shooting off just to keep my degas chamber under control. So if you've ever seen and wondered why the tops of my resin pours look kind of gooey and messy and not all clean, that's because I am constantly filling the top voids at the same time. Otherwise you come back at the end of the pour, you either have to pour loads over the top of everything, which is just a waste of resin, because I'm going to be having a bare wood top on this. This will start floating, so we're going to need to put the weights on there, but they're in plastic, so that's okay. Now I doubt very much that this will have done it in one go, but it will definitely speed up the process for me. Okay, so we're ready. Put the weights back on. They are going to stick, but it doesn't matter. I'll come and move them once the resin starts to set. That's that ready. A little contaminant fly in this case, so you do need to keep your eye out. Just with the door open, but it really helps warm up my room. So punk that in slowly. And you can see there, this, once I remove those, I'll take you through it. As this cures, I'll lift the weights off, and this will be poured in a single hit. So there was still a bit of grey resin left, which would have gone over on the first pour. So I've always got a spare piece, something prepared if this ever happens. And this time it's going to be a very small wall hanging. And I've just taken what's left of the grey and I've put some purple, which is just a translucent purple, easy composites. And I'm just going to make a bit of wall art. It's a very small piece of wall art, just by drizzling in some of the purple. As always, just come back later on in the stage, just make sure it's mixing in well.